these men, these boys grow up to be men, and they pass on the wounds. They inflict more wounds, they pass them on, and they live wounded. They usually choose inappropriate things to sort of, as a balm for the wound that they have, whether it's some addiction or it's just bad behaviors or it's overwork. They turn to that to kind of achieve themselves out of this sense of I don't measure up. So it's got to be addressed, because if not, we'll pass on to our kids a wound that will infect them in their lives, and they will suffer. So we don't want our kids to suffer.
Welcome to the Father Podcast by Father Media Group. This show is about men and men raising boys. Many of us grew up without the example of a strong, loving father, and that can leave us feeling unsure of how to guide the boys we're raising. Here, we're reclaiming the power of biblical manhood, equipping you with real stories, practical wisdom, and encouragement for your journey. Whether you're a father, grandfather, or mentor, you're not alone. So let's dive into our next episode that starts right now. Welcome to the Father Podcast. In this episode, what we're going to do is we're going to unpack the difference between a functional father and a nurturing father. And I'm here with my partner in crime, Stephen Meeks, who is also the author of Save the Boys. If you don't know us, well, welcome. We're so glad you're here. We talk a lot about father-son relationships on this podcast, even though we believe, right, Stephen, that father-daughter relationships are so important.
Absolutely.
We specialize in the father-son discipleship realm. And this was really big on our hearts. And it's been a while since we've done podcasting, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's been a couple months. It's because we've been working hard on another project that we're really trying to prepare for the world. And it's called Save the Boys, the more DIY version of Save the Boys. So we can talk about that later. So what is a functional father, you'd ask? It's the kind of dad who's present but disconnected. We actually had a hard time defining it, and all of a sudden functional father came up, and I think it encapsulates that. And then there's a nurturing father. What is that kind of dad, Stephen?
Well, he's connected with his kids, and he's preparing them for life. Physically, he's taking care of them, emotionally and spiritually, helping them with their relationships. He's engaged, and he's actively thinking about and preparing and working with his son so that his son will be ready to enter in life and be an independent man.
Yeah. So today, this is not about shaming dads out there. You know, there's a point in my life that I was a functional dad. I think a lot of us guys, partly because of how fatherhood was modeled for me. And I think it's noble. I think when you're raising a son, you want him to be successful. You want him to behave. You want him to, mind his manners, all that stuff. I think it's great. But you can start crossing the line really quick. And tell me what you feel about this, Stephen. You can cross that line really quick. You'll be defaulting to being a draft sergeant.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like you just start talking about, son, pick up your clothes, son, do this, son, do that. Have you done your chores? Blah, blah, blah. And there's really no time for that emotional connection, which is the most important thing, right? I mean, what do you think about that, Stephen?
Many men are inclined towards a project. Let's get things done, fix things, make it work, get it over with, whatever, but accomplish our goals. We sometimes find it difficult to remember the person. So we get stuck on the project and we forget the person. So when our sons come along, we're like, hey, do this, grab that, go and do that. We give orders, not meaning to sound like a drill sergeant, but our sons sometimes pick it up as they're just being pushed around and told what to do and have no control or no voice of their own. And so it frustrates them and makes a little dissonance, eventually some distance between them and their dad a lot of times. And so we have to learn to be more relational and less worried about the product at the end of the day.
That's well said. This podcast is, again, not to shame you. It's hopefully going to be used to wake you up from a pattern that you've inherited. I've inherited. Stephen could have inherited. But quickly he knew from his life story, he saw something he didn't want to do. So he did the opposite. But when you are raised by a father that is a good dad, but is mostly a functional father, you don't even know you're doing it when you're a father sometimes. We hope that what we're going to be talking about helps you learn how to give your kids more of what they should receive than what you received, because you can't give what you never got. Mm-hmm. I love that quote. You can't give what you never got until you begin to heal. And the quote is from an anonymous source.
Yeah, that, and Marcus, let me just say that is so good. What you just said there, that we can't give what we never got, and but we can heal, and that's hopeful because it means I can heal. It means I can learn. I can gain some things that I didn't get, and I'll have that to pass on to my kids. There's no perfect father. There are new fathers. There are fathers to be. There are fathers of teens. There are fathers of boys and girls. There are grandfathers. No perfect fathers. So for all the guys listening today, if you're a perfect father, then you don't need to hear this. But if you're like the rest of us, then there's something in this that's really going to be good for you, I promise. So this is a great topic that you've chosen today, Marcus.
So let's dive in. So if you found yourself in today's conversation, if you cross over, maybe a friend sent this to you or you saw us by accident, welcome. And if you realize you've been more also a functional father than a nurturing one, we just want to say you're not alone, okay? And it's not too late. Your story matters and your healing matters. If you can focus on what we're going to say today, this could really change the course of your fathering for the future, I believe, and could really set a new course for you and your son, because he needs a nurturing father. My son needs a nurturing father. Stephen is a nurturing father. He even wrote a book about his kids, told him to write a book about the type of father he was and what he did for his sons, right, Stephen?
Yeah.
To grow them into the godly men that they are today. Thanks for joining us. And if you like this episode, please share it. Please subscribe, because we're going to start getting more active on here. And we're going to start talking more about this stuff. So, and remember, it's not about being a perfect father, because you're never going to really find one. And Stephen says, oh, if you are, then, you don't need to watch this. So hopefully no one won't watch this. So we welcome you. Quick story from your experience, Stephen. We coined this phrase, or at least we think we did, functional fathers. This functional father versus nurturing father, can you get deeper on what's the difference and why it matters?
I'll give it a shot. I'm a counselor, a family counselor, so I talk with a lot of families, and unfortunately, over the last 3 years, it seems like many of my clients have been men who grew up in families who were Christian families or very religious families. And so and the dad was engaged in that he was present. He was telling them how to work. He gave them things to do. He disciplined the kids when they were out of line and that kind of thing. So he was doing a lot of the functional things that you would expect a good dad would do. And yet these kids, now adults, are damaged. I mean, they hate their father. I mean, they use those words. They hate him. They are disgusted with him. They're damaged in that they don't know how to have a relationship with God because he's a father, and they're like so against a father. They can't hear from God because their dad didn't communicate with them. There's a lot of wounding that has come from guys who were religious, but they weren't connecting with their kids. They didn't nurture them. They did teach them a lot of things, and they did a lot of things for them. There's a different thing called nurturing, and it is essential for your kids to grow up and want to do and be the kind of person that you are praying and hoping that they will want to be and do. And so how do we get there? You can get there. That's one thing I've seen, Marcus, is that, I wasn't given that myself, and yet I learned, and by God's grace, and it worked. So we can get there, even if we didn't get it. But a lot of guys just don't know what to shoot for. They don't know their target. They think it is simply a functional thing. Well, I'm home at night, and I'm not running around with other women on their mom, and I'm not an alcoholic, or I'm not a I don't beat them mercilessly, that kind of thing. So I guess I'm a good dad. And yet they wake up one day and their kids don't listen to them. They don't care for them. They don't want to be around them. And they are rebellious at some point. And they're saying, what happened? Because the Bible says they're supposed to come around and kind of follow, right? If you train them up, they're supposed to stay in that track, but they're not. So you say, what went wrong? So that's what we're talking about today. It's really important that we know that information and the difference and how to get what we want, right?
It's crazy, Stephen, and I've heard this before somewhere, but Satan loves subtlety. Mm-hmm. The subtle patterns in our life that we don't realize how damaging they are, right? And what's crazy about parenting is you don't even know the result of your actions today that's going to happen in the future. You don't see the fruit of it until it's too late. This topic is so powerful. I don't even know how we got on this topic, but I think this just was a aha moment when you and I were talking one day. Like, we got to talk about this. It almost needs to be a book, like Nurture, the art of nurturing or something, because I think a lot of fathers are just being they think that they're doing a good job. They really think hey, I think I'm doing great. I'm not hitting them. I'm not doing this. I know stories. I don't know if you've ever heard stories like this, but I know a story where there was a father that did lots of stuff for their kids, ran them around, but never really said, I love you. Never really sat down and actually had a personal relationship with them. And we were talking about this the other day about Jesus Christ, how there's a difference between a Pharisee and Jesus Christ. The Pharisee wanted all their followers to do the law, follow the law, do certain things. Everybody was all in tip-top shape. They're getting everything done, sending them the perfect lambs after they bought them, and or the doves or whatever, and they did their job and went home, right? And Jesus was different, right?
Yep.
He had that real person-to-person relationship, that connection. And so it's almost like being a pharisaical father versus a Christ-like father, right?
Yeah. And that's a difference. We don't want to be Pharisees. We don't want to be lawgivers and taskmasters. We want to be dads. We want to be loving, connected dads. Put anybody down or anything, but to help and say, well, how do you know if you're being, the Pharisee or not? Because maybe you don't know. Maybe you think you're just doing the right things, and being, good boundaries and rules and that kind of thing. And I think here's a measure. It may not be the measure, but certainly I think this is important in Scripture. It talks about two kinds of dads. It talks about those who encourage their kids and those who exasperate their kids.
Yep.
Exasperate is also connected with the word anger. It means that your kids never feel like they can measure up, or your measures are unreasonable. When your expectations of them are either unreasonable or they don't think that they can satisfy you. And it can be a misinterpretation. They get a hit and they get a single on their own first base. You say, way to go, son. Next time you'll get a double. And you're meaning that to encourage them. Hey, good job. This is great. You're doing well, and it'll probably get better for you. But they can interpret that to mean, oh, dad's not satisfied with a single. He wants a double. And so you have to be really communicating with your kids and listening to them to make sure you're getting it across. But the Scripture talks about, it says dads in particular, says fathers, don't exasperate your kids. Why? Because we can do it. Because the way we function is very much like we started out talking. We give rules and we give guidelines, and we're just kind of tangible, hands-on kind of people. Men are in general. And so we can forget the nurturing side of it, the heart and thought side of it, and just look for outcomes. And we have to be careful. But the encouraging father is the one we want to be. That's the one who builds up, equips, builds the relationship. The self-esteem of the boy is in good condition. He knows how to learn, how to function, how to figure things out. So he's ready for life. And we want it to be built up or strengthened. So you got to pay attention to those two. And the one that's on the track of exasperation is there's no communication with him and his boy. They have distance in the communication. The one is on the track to encouragement. You find that they have good dialogue, conversation. He'll ask, it doesn't mean a lot of talking. It doesn't mean you're real chatty. It just means that you can communicate on a listening and talking and back and forth level without a lot of this. I mean, there can be some of this. My dad and I had a lot of this, and I'm sure it's my fault to a degree, but there was a lot of it. And I didn't have as much with my kids because I had good mentors, and I by God's grace, learned. I had some, and it was my fault. But you can overcome that. We can get better at that. Like, no perfect dads, but we can certainly improve, and that's what we ought to be doing. And that's why we're talking about this: is how do we get closer to the dad who's an encourager and connected, and get further from that other exasperating model, distant.
Yeah, that's good. A father may be saying, "This is good. This is." I want to know how to be a nurturing dad. Where do I start? Because right now I'm in such a pattern that I'm so used to that it almost feels uncomfortable going into the nurturing realm, right? Mm-hmm. Where do I begin? And before we dive into that, I want to say, you kind of ask yourself, why is this so important? Why is being a nurturing dad so important? Why is it so important to, even as a father, work hard at this? Not just like do what's easy. I'll give you an example in my life. When my kids, when I was a younger father, when my kids went to bed, I kind of wanted to hurry up and get them to bed. Have you ever felt that way? You just wanted time with your wife. You wanted to have, you wanted to sit and watch your movie. You wanted to do whatever you wanted to do. Go into the shop, work on a car, whatever. And you just wanted to hurry that process up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know how damaging that probably was to my kids? Because I'm going to just say I was a functional father because I had a functional father. And I did not know what I was doing. You, a little bit different. We'll talk about that later. And that's what you're getting here, guys. Whoever's listening is, even though I've done some good things, I've come from a lot of failure in my fathering. We created this whole organization because of the pain that I've had in raising my son. You know, he's shaping out to be a good kid. I'm sure there's a lot of father wounds he has, and from my fathering abilities and efforts. And so back to the why. Why is this so important? Because that son's going to be an adult one day. How many stories have you from your counseling for like 30 years of counseling? Tell me the fruit of functional fatherhood. Can you give me some examples, Stephen?
Yeah, some of those that I mentioned, some of those things I mentioned a while ago, where people they feel insecure, they feel angry at life, or they pass on the same things to their kids, only worse, that their dad did to them or didn't do to them. If they didn't, like you started off, if they didn't get it, then they don't have it to give away. And so these men, these boys grow up to be men, and they pass on the wounds. They inflict more wounds. They pass them on, and they live wounded. I mean, they're limping through a lot of things, and so they usually choose inappropriate things to sort of set, as a balm for the wound that they have, whether it's some addiction, or it's just bad behaviors, or it's workaholism. They turn to that to kind of achieve themselves out of this sense of I don't measure up. And all of those are just detrimental to them and those around them. So it's got to be addressed, because if not, we'll pass on to our kids a wound that will infect them in their lives, and they will suffer. So we don't want our kids to suffer. So that's why I think, for me, that's a big motivator, is I need to fix this in me, and I need to learn how to do this, because I don't want my children to go forward and not have the best, shot at life and not be prepared for life.
And I would just say, if I heard what you're saying, I'm like, gosh, I'm going to mess this crap up. I'm going to mess up. I don't know how I'm going to become a nurturing dad. What do you say to those guys?
Well, first of all, I would say, yeah, you're going to mess up. But the cure to that is to say, I messed up, son. I'm trying to do the right thing, but I did it the wrong way. Can you forgive me? That's what you do for that, because you're going to mess up. So just know how to handle it is important, and not ignore it. That's a bad way to handle it. Blaming the kids, that's not a good way to handle it. Keep doing it. That's the worst thing. So you're going to say, hey, I'm sorry. I did it wrong. I'm learning. Humility. I mean, I'm learning.
Yeah.
I messed up. I want to do good with you. I want to teach you. I want to help you, and I didn't do it the right way. So I hope you'll forgive me for that. I'm going to try again. So that's what you do when you mess up. But what you're asking is, what do you do to begin to be transformed into this nurturing dad? And I want to point to a wonderful passage. It's Romans 12. I mean, the scripture is full of all the things we need, right? Well, Romans 12, verses 6, 7, and 8, those verses are dynamite as you get into them. And I'm really diving into them myself these days afresh. It is so good. And it helps us to learn how to encourage our kids, or anybody, but especially our kids. It says there are 7 gifts given to the body. It's talking about the church, but it applies to a dad. Anybody who's leading a kingdom, a family, or enterprise of any kind needs these 7 things. And so they're listed in order of prophecy, service, teaching, encouragement, and then giving or generosity and leadership and mercy. And they're really written. Paul is a Jew. He's thinking like a Jew. He was trained to be a Jew. He's speaking them from the way he learned them in what we call a menorah pattern. The candelabra that's got like 3 stalks on one side and one in the middle. So he's saying them in that order. And the center one is always the main one. And the others rest on it, is encouragement in that list. So that's what we're after. Encouraged sons, built up, strong, ready to go sons. And how we get there are those 7 steps. And those 7 things are balances to one another. For example, prophecy is the first one. It doesn't mean you're telling the future. It means you're saying, do this and you'll live. Do that and you won't live. That's what the prophets did. They said, Israel, you keep this up, going to be trouble. Repent, and it'll be good. So that's what the prophets did. So you tell your son right and wrong. Son, do this and it'll go well. Don't do that or there'll be some bad consequence, right? So we do speak truth to, this is good, this is true, this is false, this is good, this is bad, do and don't do. So we do those things. We're good at that. That's the Pharisee who stops right there, who just gives the orders and stops. The balance to that is the other end of that 7, that list of 7 is mercy. And so you have a dad who knows right and wrong and tells his kid, here's right and wrong, gives him good boundaries, but it has to be given in a merciful way. And mercy is a word there that means compassion. It has the idea of almost a motherly way. In fact, the word for compassion in Hebrew is rachum, and the word for mercy is rachem. They're the same word, actually. They're the same word. There's this idea of, I'm sensitive to you as I give this to you. I'm not just saying, do what I said. That's the Pharisee. You're saying, here's right and here's wrong. Let's do the right thing because it will go well for you. There's a sympathetic, compassionate component to that guidance that we give our boys. And we have to apply that mercy. And when they fail, you don't say, you idiot, what's wrong with you? You broke the rule. You say, hey, you can't do that. And here's why. Because it will go poorly. There's you're with him in it kind of thing. Like a mother is, the baby is in her. She's really in it with the child more than dad is, right? So we got to have those 2. And the next one is leadership and service. Those 2 are juxtaposed. And so leadership there means model it for him. So if you want to encourage your son, do it in front of him. Don't say, you should do that. And I'm not doing it, but you should do it. That didn't work. My dad told me that. And I'm sure a lot of dads have heard that kind of thing or done that kind of thing. So you model it in front of him. And when you model it in front of him, you offer it to him as, here, let me show you how to do it. Serving. It's a servant attitude, not like, no, you better be like me. That's different. Okay. But it's given as a service. Let me show you how to do it. Now let's do it together. And I'm leading the way and you step where I step kind of thing. In fact, when I was in East Africa, there's a wise proverb that the tribe I worked with had. It was tiech oliga tiech, and it means step where I step. And it's what they tell young men when they lead them through initiation. You do what I do. Step where I step. So we do that with our kids. Model it to them. That's that in Romans 12 is saying that. And the other one is to teach. The other pair leading to encouragement is to teach and to give generously. So what's the deal there? Well, the idea is that, again, you give the steps of how life works, the teaching part of it. You explain it to him. Here's how you do. You really details. And as you're teaching him, You do it with focus and with attention, with generosity. You are generous in your giving. It's not like, now hurry up and do that. Like you were talking about a while ago, that's not a good thing. You got to hurry. I got to go. But you are teaching him, but you're very patient. You're very generous. You're like giving to him. I want to give you this teaching. I don't want you just to know it. I want to give it to you. I want you to have it. It's good for you. So you do it in that attitude. And there's that generosity, which is effervescent of a righteous person. And so those things, if you do those things in the right way, your sons are built up and encouraged. If you miss in one, if he's not being encouraged, you got to say, where am I missing? So it's kind of a good diagnostic tool to say, am I being Pharisee? Am I being law and not enough mercy? Or am I being too much mercy and not enough guidance? Because it's just like, well, do whatever you want to do. I don't care. That's not very encouraging either. Guys will flounder and they'll get in trouble. So do I have a balance there? Am I serving him as a model, or am I doing it for my own purposes? Am I really giving him a model, or am I trying to get something out of it myself? I don't want to be embarrassed by him, so I want to try and get him to do the right things. So we have to look at those 6 components there and say, where am I missing it with my son if he's not encouraged? And if we get that one right, then we'll find that he's encouraged, he connects with us, he's not exasperated, he believes he can do it, and he wants to do it. So I think in that, I know that's a lot, but in that Romans 12 passage, there's a lot there to help us to know some steps to take to encourage our boys and connect with them. And I find in my life that it's worked really well.
That's so good. There's this verse in Galatians 6:1 that says, brothers, if anyone is caught in any transgression, you who are spiritual should restore him in a spirit of gentleness. Why am I telling you this verse? Why am I saying it? Because when I used to correct my son a lot, I felt like I had to raise my voice, because I felt like if I raised my voice, he would hear me better or he would think that I'm serious. But what do you think that did? That made him feel horrible about himself. That made him feel ashamed. That made me look unapproachable. And we've all done it. We've all yelled. We've lost our cool, right? And this is me saying this so I feel better about myself. But no, honestly, I had that issue. And sometimes I slip still, but I'm getting a lot better. And I am nurturing. And I am praising God that I'm in that realm now, because my relationship with my son and my daughter is just real and great. But I say this verse, Galatians 6:1, because I think it was my father-in-law. He pointed out that verse to me, and he says, even though they were your son, it was right for you to correct him. Look what this verse says about correction. It's about doing in kindness and gentleness, patience. And the only way you could do that is know your own wounds. The only way you can do that is to heal from your wounds, from your past wounds. Forgive your father, to know what you're doing, to break the pattern, to repent of it, and to go, I don't want to go there anymore. I want to start going towards the nurturing part of my parenting. And it just hit me like a ton of bricks. Like, oh my gosh, this whole time I'm thinking I had a right to yell at my son because he did something really wrong. And all it did is it backlashed on me. So if you want results, if the whole purpose of you yelling, if you're yelling because you're taking it personal, or maybe you're reliving something from your wounds or your childhood, that's one thing. But if you're yelling, and that's another matter you have to deal with, but if you're yelling to get that kid to listen, not going to work. May work for the short while, right, Stephen? But in the long term, rebellion will come. I promise. I mean, what do you think about that?
You're exactly right. And it's because you haven't won his heart. You got his obedience, but you didn't get his heart.
Right.
You wounded his heart. Like you said, you've hurt his heart. Now, it doesn't mean you can't disagree with your kid, or that everything you say that they have to go along with, or you have to, make them like it. But the anger is really a bad thing, because when anger comes in, he stops thinking the same way. The emotion comes up, resistance, pushback, self-protection, and preservation begins to rise up, and so he doesn't think like you ought to be thinking. So he just goes into obedience to get out of there. I'll do whatever you say just to not get in trouble, or I'll fight to try and win, and then maybe I'll end up having to give up. The father-son relationship piece goes away. It gets squelched during that, and it becomes survival, or who's going to win, him or dad or me, that kind of thing. And as they get older, they're going to win. I mean, they'll fight you, or they just give up and say, I don't care. Well, they do care, but they're tired of losing, so they're exasperated. They don't want to give up. They don't want to try anymore, so they just give in. But inside, they're just thinking, as soon as I can get out of this house, I'm going to go do whatever I want to do. Some of us have been there ourselves, growing up in a home where we were treated that way. And I want guys who are listening to not be discouraged if they're struggling with these things. We just want them to overcome, to recognize, as you said earlier, we want them to recognize these things, and then we want to say, how can we overcome those things? And just a quick and effective thing that a dad can do, a man can do, when he has any shortcoming, when he recognizes that he is falling short, whether it's his temper, or he recognizes, I'm too busy at work, or I'm play video games too much, and I know in my heart I need to give my kids more one-on-one time. I visited with a guy one time who had, I think, 12 children. And he said, Stephen, I never touch my kids. I never touch their bodies. I said, what? He said, my dad never touched me, and I never touched my kids. And so we have all kinds of things that are going on in us and around us, wounds that we bring along. So what do we do with those? And so when we sense something's off, and it may be your wife telling you, hey, you need to hold the kids, you need to talk to the kids, or don't talk to them that way, or whatever. Listen to her. Don't push. We tend to push back. Hey, I got it. I'm cool. Don't worry about it. Let me deal with it. We do that kind of thing, right? I know we do. I do. And so, but if we're wise, we'll say, let's listen to the wife, or listen to the kids, or just listen to the Spirit nudging us, our own shame that eventually gets to us every now and then. And we go to God and say, God, what do you want to say to me now about this? And listen to what God has to say. Ask him, God, I lose my temper. I raise my voice. I don't touch my kids. What do you want to say to me now about that? And you listen what he has to say to you, not what you to do to them, but what did he say to you about that? Often, Marcus, the clear thought will come from God, and it's exactly what you need to hear. And you can deal with it at that point. And then deal with it, and you'll find that that poor behavior begins to loosen its grip. It doesn't show up as often. It's not as intense. You catch it ahead of time before you fall into it. So that's one of our ways to heal, is just say, God, what do you want to say to me about this? And listen what he has to. Just give him a minute. Just sit there quietly for a minute and see if there's some thoughts that are true from him.
So good. Well, I know we're wrapping up here, but I want to, if you're listening as a father, look, we're kind of a newer organization. We're just getting started. fathermediagroup.org, if you want to check it out. Stephen and I have a calling to really, from mistakes and from triumphs in their fathering skills, we really want to create. I know there's lots of books out there. There's a lot of resources out there. But we want to actually truly create things that you're actually going to use. And one of the things that Stephen has written is called Save the Boys. I want to mention this, Stephen, because I think it's a good starting point. I think the book is fabulous, not because you wrote it, and I know you, and we published it together, but it is just a good book. And if you want to start getting into this nurturing realm as a father, pick up that book. It's on Amazon. This is not just a shameless plug, but it's not for our benefit, it's for your benefit. We are a nonprofit organization. We give away books. And so, but if you want a great book to read about not only the journey of you taking your son on even a man about, which we call man about, which is a rite of passage journey. And I know there's others out there, but this is a unique one because it also brings in your core story, understanding your story, understanding where you came from, and then creating a guide that really walks you through how to take your son, have that conversation with your son, bond with your son, take him on a life-transforming adventure that will change his life and mark him as a man, and an opportunity for you to say, okay, now that you're a man, I'm going to walk with you. You're my disciple. I'm going to walk with you and care for you and nurture you. So you not only know what to do in life, but feel loved while we're doing it. Mm-hmm. So if you want something like that, check that out. Number 2, we are continuing to build more resources. One of them is discipleship. What happens after Save the Boys that you're man about with your son? And if you want to learn all about this, you can go on our site and you can read more about it. But the D60 that we're working on is so huge. I am excited about this book coming up because this is about discipleship, right, Stephen? And nurturing your son.
Yeah. And actually, the one we're working on is D60 for dads, and it's specifically for how dad can lead his son into a real relationship with the Lord, and learn the tools that he will use afterwards on his own to continue his walk with God. But not just information about the Bible and that, of course, it's based in Scripture, but it's really simple things to do that are ancient and proven, and they actually put him in the presence of God where he has a relationship born with the Lord. It's pretty amazing how it works. And so really glad, hope to finish that pretty soon here and have that out there for dads to enjoy.
We're definitely going to work on that. Yeah. I want to offer 2 or 3 things with you, Stephen, a man can start doing to move towards becoming a nurturing father. So one would be, picking up the book. Well, what's another one?
I think it needs to probably go to his son soon, immediately if possible, but go soon this week and say, hey, I want to be a great dad for you. And I realize I probably have hurt you or failed you, fallen short, embarrassed you. Somehow I've done some things wrong, and I want to make those right. Can you tell me, because I want to apologize, and I want you to forgive me.
Yeah.
Just start the conversation there. That'll help erase and heal a lot of the wounds that have already been put in place. That's a very powerful step.
Yeah, that's huge. And we'll be praying for you, even though we don't even know you. We're going to be praying for you. And if you do want to know us, please comment. We want to hear your story. Reach out to us. If you have any questions, you can go on our site. You can send us emails through that, or Stephen at fathermediagroup.org or Marcus at fathermediagroup.org. Reach out to us, and we're here for you. We've built this organization to help men just like you, or grandfathers, or men that are raising boys that maybe are from another family. We're here for you. And I'm excited for this next chapter, Stephen, because we're going to start picking up pace on our podcasting again, now that we've finished some big hurdles, and still working on one, but we're going to be doing this now more regularly. I'm excited about that. And then 2, speaking, we're trying to get more speaking arrangements with people that want to hear this type of content. And so if you're ever interested in Stephen coming out or us doing an event for your church, whatever, we would love to have the opportunity. So you can also reach out to us on the site. But Stephen, I think this topic deserves probably another podcast, because I feel like I want to continue to talk about it. So let's do that.
Yeah, I agree. And actually, it's timely, I guess. But this past weekend, my three of my sons and their families and I and my wife went camping, and so we had a lot of grandkids around, and my sons who are in their 40s and 30s were there, and I just felt directed by the Lord. I pulled them aside. I said, "Guys, let me tell you something. You've got to be intentional, more intentional raising your kids than I was raising you, because the times are evil." Yeah. It's different. I'm older now, and I said I have kids now, grown grandkids coming up. You men out there who have kids that are in the early years, the teen years and such right now, man, they are going to face evil, twisted times that you didn't face and that I certainly didn't face. They were bad enough. There's always evil, but this is a different level. Level. It means we have really got to do our part. Dads have really got to get on the stick and make sure our kids are prepared, that they are encouraged and equipped. for this onslaught that's coming against them, especially our boys, who we already know are in the bullseye and are going to be more so. And they've got to know what a godly man is and how to be one and to stand in that, just like Jesus did. And we can't let them guess at it. We got to help them get there. So this is really important, Marcus.
It's a battle cry. We're crying out. So why don't you join us? We're here for you. And thank you for listening. Again, share this if you know of a man who needs to hear it. And again, remember, this is also for the ladies, because we're trying to raise godly men so that our daughters have some good choices out there. And so, again, thank you for listening. Thank you, Stephen. Always love being on the show with you. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Father Podcast. The Father Podcast is brought to you by Father Media Group, a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to restoring biblical manhood in today's world. We'd love to hear your comments and feedback to make this podcast even more helpful for you and others. If you'd like to help us reach more men and advance our mission, please subscribe and consider making a donation at fathermediagroup.org. Together, we can build a stronger community and shape the future for the next generation of men. See you next time.